Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Films and Stuff. I am Ethan, joined by Pete. Pete, take it away. What do we have today?
Hi, Ethan. So today we're going to do our slightly delayed by a couple months. We're doing our annual Films and Stuff 2023. You heard me right, 2023 Streamies, where we finally go through the results of the films that we saw, the platforms that we saw, and we give everyone a score and we tell you, hey, for 2024, this is the platform you should be invested in for the next 12 months based on the last 12 months.
That's right. How should we organize our thoughts? Should we go through platforms one by one? Should we highlight something that we loved about each of them? What's your strategy for addressing this?
So I thought that what we could do is start off with a little bit of gross stats for the year. Just talk a little bit of the environment overall, not just for the streaming platforms, but also the non-streaming platforms.
Yep.
And then we can talk about just the content that we saw, or specifically what we think is the best platform. I've collated a few stats off our own viewership. So in terms of gross stats for the industry overall, 2023 saw the 52nd and 53rd movie ever to break $1 billion on the global box office scale.
No way. 53, huh?
Yeah, 52nd and 53rd. The 52nd movie was the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Okay.
53rd movie was the Barbie movie.
Okay.
Overall, the global box office was up 31%. That's a great sign. And it reached $34 billion, which includes the international markets. Caveat, as always, we're talking about Western cinema and Western movies. We don't have access to accurate data for results coming out of China, out of India, and other very big markets. So while we acknowledge they exist, and certainly the top 10 lists for most of these would look vastly different if we did include the Indian market and the Chinese market, we're not going to because we don't have that data.
Yeah.
Last year, interestingly enough, streaming for the first time beat cable and broadcast with 38.1% of TV usage.
And I expect that trend is only going to grow.
I agree. I think that's exactly right. In aggregate, there were 1.8 billion subscribers to streaming platforms by the end of 2023, with $37 billion in sales. So between all the platforms combined, the streaming platform was more valuable on a gross basis than the cinematic platform. As expected, cost is still the number one driver for a platform's success. In terms of all the surveys that we've seen, the number one driver to determine whether someone is subscribing to a platform isn't actually quality, it's the price of that platform.
Speaking of that, do we have the statistics or information about, the cost for each platform? I think I'm paying, we'll do this in dollars.
Yeah.
I think I pay $9.99 for Apple TV Plus.
Okay.
The equivalent of like $7.50 for Netflix. Amazon, I don't know. How much do you pay for Amazon?
Amazon, I'm paying, I think, £90 a year for Amazon Prime, which includes Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah.
The problem is, and maybe not a problem, but the reality is that all these platforms have started doing ad-supported tiers. And just recently, Amazon said that your £90 a year, or whatever that number is in the UK, they're now going to give you ads with Amazon Prime Video in yet another blow to Amazon Prime's, let's say, public perception, by me at least. So if I want to get rid of ads, I have to pay another whatever it is. I haven't even bothered looking because, frankly speaking, I've been so disappointed with Amazon Prime while I've been in India.
Yeah. the ads generally, I think, are very disruptive. I think it really depends on what is going to be the cost to get rid of the ads, to see whether or not it's a good deal.
Yeah. As a final stat on the overall market, at the end of the year, Netflix was leading the charge with 238 million users.
Yep.
And Prime was next with 162 million users. It's, again, important to caveat that with the fact that Amazon Prime Video is thrown in as a freebie with Amazon Prime subscribers. So that number is a bit disingenuous because you don't know how many people are subscribed to Prime Video exclusively for Prime Video versus as to the platform, and they just get it for free. And it doesn't include the fact that there are multiple households which have multiple subscriptions. So, for example, my household has 3 Amazon Prime subscribers, which means we have.
Is that right?
Yeah, because I have one, my mom has one, and my sister has one, which means that all 3 of us have Amazon Prime Video as separate platforms.
Yeah.
But if you look at Netflix, for example, you can take the highest tier package, which includes up to 4 or 6 different people as a part of one household. So it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah. I also read that even though Netflix has more subscribers, that Amazon claims to be more profitable. And I think, again, it's really hard to break it down because the Netflix business is solely streaming, whereas the Amazon business, I would expect that both their revenue and their costs are somehow contaminated by their broader business. So I think it's hard to really draw any statistics out of that.
Yeah, because almost certainly Amazon streaming platform is supported by Amazon Web Services.
Yeah.
And Amazon Web Services is less likely to charge full retail price to Amazon's own streaming platform than it does to any other business, right? So yes, I agree with you that actually contamination is probably the exact right word. Where we're not 100% sure how many synergistic benefits they're getting in terms of finance speak.
So I think the only thing we can really say definitively is that, the streaming battle for just kind of a family looking for one platform mostly seems to be between Netflix and Amazon. And then if someone is looking for a secondary platform, then I think you have the Apple TV Plus, the Disney/Hulu Plus, the Max, Discovery, whatever.
Exactly. So so you raised a very interesting point. So Disney gets very interesting because officially at the end of last year, at the beginning of this quarter, they merged Hulu with Disney in terms of the service offering. It's still a separate platform in the sense that you have to subscribe to Hulu content. When I say merge their services, I mean that you don't need a separate Hulu app. You can access Hulu content through Disney Plus, and that includes also ESPN Plus. And I heard, although I haven't seen that in practice, I've heard that they're also doing that with Hotstar in India. If they do, that's going to be a huge number of subscribers jumping onto their platform. Things get a bit, let's say, not dicey, but cloudy when you start looking at those kinds of platforms. And then, as you rightly said, Max merged with Warner Brothers. So it's HBO Max became Max because there was no more Discovery. As we'll talk about in the coming months, Paramount Plus may not even exist by the end of this year. So, there's a lot of news with that. But anyway, so that's on the streaming side. A quick recap, the top 10 for the entire year in terms of box office. Barbie was number 1 with 1.4 billion. Super Mario Brothers with 1.3 billion. Oppenheimer with 950 million. Guardians 3 with 845. Fast X with 714. Spider-Man with 682. The Little Mermaid with 568. Mission Impossible with 566. Wonka with 510, and Elemental with 486. That was the top 10 global box office.
So many shockers in there. What's your biggest shocker in that top 10?
Probably Spider-Man.
I would say my biggest shocker is Mission Impossible.
Oh, being as low as it did.
Yeah. I think that all the people involved with Mission Impossible, had they seen that, let's call it a top 9 list, if these are going to be the top 9, where do you think that you'll fall into this group?
Yeah.
I think that the Mission Impossible folks would have been, yeah, we'll probably come in at like, 3 or 4, we'll shoot for 3, kind of 4 or 5 at the worst. For them to only have made $500 million, Tom Cruise coming off of, the success of Maverick, I would expect that they're extraordinarily disappointed with part 1 of that. Knowing now that there's a part 2, I would expect the studios kind of like, like, can we get out of this? Like, if part 1 makes 500, you have to expect that part 2 is like at 300. Like,
you're exactly right. I think there's an upper limit as to how much part 2 can make. For part 2 to make 1 for 1 as part 1, I think that's a hard sell.
Yeah.
I just don't see it personally. So it puts an extra amount of pressure on part 2 to be really good. And I mean, like, not just good in terms of critics, but also like people who walk out of the movie like you and me. We need to tell our audience that, my God, forget all the bad things about part 1. You need to go watch part 1 so that you can watch part 2, because part 2 is unbelievable.
You know why that's hard? I mean, just kind of practically, it goes back to what you say. You really hate, part 1s and part 2s because, look, if you want to go see part 2, you need a movie watching partner that saw part 1, liked part 1. Yeah. Your universe of people that you can go with now to see part 2 is small. It's smaller because only 500 million was generated, not a billion. And of that, probably 250 walked away happy, unhappy,
Yeah. I mean, it was an action spectacle. It was great, but I think the timing between the 2 movies was too long, and B, I mean, it was so. I think they could have done much more with it.
I agree. Maybe we need a whole nother recap based on that, or maybe we need like a pre-cap.
That's a good idea. I think before the second one comes out, we should do a pre-cap, and then we can talk about alternatives.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of really good things about the movie. I think they got bogged way too much in kind of character development and the personal stories. Disappointing.
That's the overall stats. Let's look at our stats. Let's look at the Films and Stuff stats as to where we are with 2023.
Let's look at the scorebook. Yeah.
So in terms of the best platforms, right? If we're looking at the best platform for us overall, Paramount Plus came in as the best platform with the highest score. Couple of caveats. One, only 3 shows.
Yeah,
right?
That's a problem. All 3 shows were standouts, but again, just based on the limited number of shows, very high hit ratio.
Yes.
But once you've seen those shows, you've kind of expired what you can do on Paramount Plus, right?
Yeah. And then if you look at the overall platform, say, stats, if you look at the shows that you watched on Paramount Plus that I didn't, or vice versa, if including that, we saw a total of 9 shows on the platform. Oh. And you had a much better success rate with the platform overall than I did. That's where we are with Paramount Plus overall.
Yeah.
The second caveat is Paramount Plus is currently in a very it's in a very precarious place in 2024.
I like suspicious better.
Yeah.
More fun.
Paramount as a studio is theoretically up for sale. And not theoretically, it is up for sale. Yeah. There are competing bids out in the market right now.
What's the price of Paramount? You have any idea what the
26
value is?
billion.
Whoa.
So there are 2 offers on the table for Paramount right now. Skydance has offered to buy Paramount, as has Apollo and Sony in a joint venture or in some kind of partnership.
Does Skydance have this much money? Whose money is that?
I think they've tied up with KKR.
Got it. So basically, private equity funds are tying up with the know-how of another studio to buy out Paramount.
Yeah, and the difference is that so Paramount has a voting and non-voting share structure. Skydance is proposing to buy all of the voting shares to take over control. So the offer is much smaller, but it will take over control of the entire company by getting all of the voting shares under its belt. Whereas Sony Apollo have offered to buy out all of the shares total. So it's a much larger offer. I think it's something like $3 billion versus $26 billion. So, of course, the majority of the shareholders are in favor of the Sony Apollo deal because that's how they get paid out. Whereas the current owner, who I think is the Redstone family, they get their buyout for $3 billion or whatever that final number is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's all the money that'll be transacted. And they'll effectively, Skydance will be able to get control for a much smaller.
Okay.
That's where we are with Paramount.
Can I just ask a finance question?
Yeah.
Let's say that I'm Skydance and I buy all the controlling shares for $3 billion. Great. I've basically paid $3 billion so I can make all the decisions about the company, right?
Yep.
But what's the point about making the decisions of the company if you don't get any like financial benefit?
Well, you still get financial benefit, right? You still own a significant amount, maybe not a majority, but you still own shares in the company.
So the pref shares also get some type of dividend?
Theoretically, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, the value of the shares will go up as long as the company does well.
Yeah. Okay. But there's got to be a financial. Okay. So it's a pref shares also, not just voting shares. They also
it's not just voting shares, but it's also just, they're treated like common equity with voting.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Like there's no tag along, drag along. There's no like right of first refusal. There's nothing else to kind of protect the common shareholders.
The common shareholder. That's right. So that's why the common shareholders were having like an uprising against the Redstone family, which controls all the voting shares right now, is because they said, hey, listen, you're going to get paid out. We get nothing out of this. Things stay the same for us. The company's still not in great shape. So screw that noise. And so they're creating a lot of trouble or noise. I don't know what the legal recourse is in something like this.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I mean, voting shares are the most important shares.
Okay. Got it.
That's the caveat, is that because Paramount Plus is in what we would consider a very shaky circumstance or in limbo.
The official legal term.
Yes.
Limbo.
Our recommendation on the basis of the number of shows that we watch, on the basis of the scores that we have, is that Disney Plus is the, let's say, second place winner.
Can I say, I think in that second tier, yes, Disney Plus. Max, I think the quality of Max shows is great. The Max platform, if we bifurcated scores, I think the Max content would be very high, maybe like an 8. And I think the Max technology, and I don't exaggerate this at all, is a 1. I don't think you could really say for a company the size of Max that it's realistic to have a worse technology platform that they have. Apart from a website where you could actually search for everyone's credit card information, I don't think Max could really have a worse technology base.
I know exactly what you mean. I feel the same way about Amazon Prime.
Why doesn't it's really frustrating for both of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that's where we are with the platforms overall. Now, if we drill down into that a little bit, if you look at the shows that you and I watched together, Netflix had the greatest number of must subscribes. Bear in mind, we also saw 15 shows on Netflix, you and I, and individually, we saw 70.
And Netflix had the most skips.
Netflix also, again, and that's the virtue of Netflix's, let's say,
that's their model.
Scattergun approach, which is as much content as possible. We're bound to get a few headshots in. So that's Netflix's model, which, again, credit where credit is due. It works for them. They're a content behemoth, whether it's content they're making themselves, which is generally speaking quite high quality, or they're buying content from other regions. Again, their selection standards are pretty damn high. On an individual basis, I found Apple TV to have the most must subscribes. You found Netflix to have the most subscribes. Both of us thought that Amazon Prime and Netflix had the most skips.
Yeah.
Combined, you and I thought Amazon Prime was the least successful platform with more skips than anything else.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for the same reason, Netflix has the quote unquote largest impact because we saw 70 shows on Netflix, which is more than double.
It's crazy, huh? Yeah.
And Paramount and Disney, we only saw 8 and 9.
Wow. Unbelievable. Can I ask you a question? What platform do you think has the best algorithm for recommendations?
Oh, hands down, Netflix. Hands down. Like there's, in my mind, no question that they have perfected their recommendation algorithm over the last 15 or 10 years, 12 years, whatever it's been for Netflix.
Yeah.
When I get a recommendation on Netflix, it gives me a little bit of a score and it says that, 70%, 80%, 90%, I will like it. And almost always it is very accurate.
That would be a separate, really interesting thing. If we would say, look, let's go through, if you could start from scratch on Netflix, because now I feel like my Netflix account is a little bit contaminated.
Okay.
Because we've done a little bit of streamer skip on it. So we've done some things that I wouldn't ordinarily do. And I don't rate all my shows, which I should. From time to time, I know my dad's on mine or my mom's on mine, and I know they've got their own accounts, but they just click on it. So, I think mine's a little bit contaminated, but I would be fascinated if I could have a new account, choose, 10 shows that I love, 10 shows that I hate, and then see what their algorithm picks for me and really evaluate, like what I think of what they're recommending for me.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons Netflix is also such a valuable company, especially in today's day and age where AI and algorithmic, let's say machine learning has gotten so valuable. There's a reason why NVIDIA is worth $2.5 trillion today. I am now at a point where I do trust Netflix's recommendations because in general, my family's been very good about making sure that they stick to their own profiles. That you're absolutely right. There is some cross-contamination because inevitably my sister or my mom or my dad will accidentally use my profile to watch a show.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden my continue watching list is filled with a bunch of serials and dramas and shows that I would never watch.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit OCD about that kind of thing, a little bit anal about that kind of thing. I go through my Netflix watch history, I rate, and things that I'm not watching, I delete from my history. That's how valuable I think that their recommendation engine is.
Way better than me.
The other difference also, and this is just, Netflix has also been in the game the longest. And Netflix had a head start because they started off, remember, as a DVD company with mailers. Mm-hmm. So they have had access to user preferences in terms of rankings for our younger listeners or for our more recent listeners who have not used Netflix back when they still did DVDs by mail.
Yeah.
You used to send Netflix a list of rankings, and based on their availability, they would send you DVDs based on the highest rankings that they had available.
Yeah.
So if the number one movie, for example, was Matrix, and you put that on your list, and you could hire only one movie at a time, but they didn't have it, they would go to the number 2 on your list, or number 3 on your list, or number 4 on your list until they found the one that matched, that they had available in inventory, and that's what they would send out to you.
I thought what they did was they would actually burn those DVDs for you.
Oh, maybe, but I don't think so.
It wasn't like the old Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster, you'd go like, they'd have like the new release section. Remember, you'd take like the cover, and then there'd be like no tape behind the cover. You'd be like, oh, that's so annoying. They're all taken. But I thought Netflix actually burned their DVDs based on what you ordered.
I don't think they actually burned the DVDs. I think they actually had a physical inventory, like say, 1 million copies of the Matrix DVD.
Where do you think those all went?
So you always had the option to buy those movies from Netflix.
Oh.
I'm almost certain you could buy them.
Someone's got like a coffee table made out of like recycled Black Hawk Down DVDs.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure you could do that with Redbox too. But ultimately, the advantage that Netflix has had, and that started in the early 2000s. I think I was a Netflix member in like 2001, maybe two. I can't remember.
For sure I was.
Way back in the day. So they've had me on their list as a customer for 20 years, plus minus. And they've known my preferences in terms of data. They've had that for 20 years. Disney doesn't have that information. Paramount doesn't have that information. Nobody else has that. So that's hugely valuable for someone like Netflix, especially because, hey, I'm making my own content now. So they can be like, we know definitively that Pete is going to like this show because we know that over the last 20 years, he has always rented or watched this kind of show.
Yeah. Paramount is like, Pete liked or disliked Yellowstone. Yeah. That's it.
That's it. Oh, speaking of which, Lioness just started filming the second season.
Oh, that's one of the must subscribes we have.
That was, that's right.
A very sad family show about a very great covert ops situation.
And Tulsa King, same thing. They also started season 2.
Fantastic.
So, okay. Anyway, so that's the streaming platforms where we are. Official recommendation is to go with Disney Plus for 2024 over Paramount, only because Paramount, we don't know where it's going to be. Streaming versus cinema. In the last year, we watched a total of, are you ready for this number?
I am ready.
103 movies between the two of us.
No way.
65 of them were in the cinema.
Okay.
And the rest were on streaming platforms.
So hold on. You and I watched in 2023 65 movies in the cinema.
Yes.
Together. Not together at the same time physically, but like we watched the same 65?
No. So you and I watched 25 movies.
Okay. But
between us, we saw 65.
So how many times did we each go to the cinema?
So I saw all 65.
Oh. You went to the cinema more than once a week?
I mean, I had time.
Okay. How many times did I go to the cinema?
25.
So once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This year it's going to be very low for me.
This year's going to be low for both of us.
Yeah.
That's why for you, cinema was the best platform.
Yeah.
But for me, Apple TV was the best platform.
You went twice a week?
Not twice a week, like 1.2 times a week.
That's incredible. There cannot be anyone else in the world who's gone more than 65 separate instances to the cinema.
I'm sure there's quite a few.
Cannot. No, not quite a few. and I say that like with admiration. I'm not saying like you're going to like the CD strip club like every week. I'm saying like with admiration, like that's fantastic.
Yeah. So last year was, it was quite a few movies. However, having said that, both of us thought that Apple TV Plus was actually the best platform for movies.
Yeah, true.
We saw 6 movies on Apple TV Plus. And overall, the score for the movies we saw on Apple TV versus in the cinema was higher for Apple TV.
What did we like on Apple TV? What movies did we prefer?
We saw Sharper, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, yeah. Beanie Baby.
Beanie Bubble.
Michael J. Fox.
Tetris. Ghosted.
Not a great
selection. But, the difference was we didn't see Babylon. We didn't see Blue Beetle. There were a couple of cinematic, like absolute bombs. And then, I saw some truly awful stinkers. Oh my God. There were some really horrible, horrible, horrible movies that I saw.
Let's look at what's here. You didn't like Babylon at all, huh?
No.
The Flash. I gave it a 5. You gave it a 1.
It was a skip for me.
I thought Flash was fantastic. Come on.
That's what you thought about Shazam too.
What'd I give Shazam to?
You gave it a must watch in cinema.
I love the pen. Remember the floating pen? I can't remember.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love the pen. Oh yeah. Blue Beetle. At least we agreed. We definitely agreed on Blue Beetle.
Oh, awful.
Yeah, Barbie, you gave a 1. That's tough.
I recognize that it did very well, but it was not a movie. So yeah, cinema had the greatest impact. Apple TV was a close second place, and overall, the streaming platforms beat out the cinema platform. If you had to choose between staying at home and watching a movie on a streaming platform versus in the cinema, you were better off watching a movie on streaming.
I mean, I think that also has to do with the technology. Is if you've got a good setup at home, you can have a very good experience even watching a film with a lot of graphics or a lot of sound.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's the reality, is that
Yeah.
cinema these days especially is kind of catering to bombastic films.
Yeah.
And you need to have a movie that justifies the quality, not just visually, but in terms of sound. So like Oppenheimer didn't have any crazy effects or anything, but the sound design, some of the visual effects, it was just spectacular. And you cannot replicate that I don't care how nice your TV is. It doesn't matter what OLED TV you have or how fancy your TV system is. You just cannot compare the two to that to an IMAX screen.
I mean, I will agree with Oppenheimer, but I mean, Oppenheimer is primarily a drama with one or two important, sequences where the sound is tuned to a maximum. But I mean, to be honest, if you do watch those at home, you're not going to completely spoil the film. I think you could live without.
Oh, no, I agree with
Yeah.
you. Look, none of us are so precious that we would think that a movie is ruined by watching it on a small screen versus on a big screen.
Yeah.
Let's be practical.
Yeah.
Also, we're not teenagers where we have to have the best experience possible for everything. We also have real world lives, and we have things going on that. Look, I can't necessarily duck out to the cinema every week. I can understand that.
Only 1.2 times a week.
Exactly.
You're like, I can't go to the cinema twice a week.
For my second viewing of Oppenheimer of this week, I will have to do it at home. That's fair enough. But the point is that if you really want to get the best experience out of it, there are some movies that you just won't be able to replicate at home. Again, Fast X, for example, not a great movie by any means, but in terms of the visual effects, in terms of the grandiose sound design and, stunts, there is an element of you need to see that on the big screen to appreciate it. The same as the Tom Cruise movies, right?
Yeah.
Watching Maverick in the big screen versus at home, yes, overall, you're getting the same movie on both experiences, but the sound design, the visual effects, all of that stuff, there's an X factor to watching it in the cinema.
God bless Maverick, which is, I think, the perfect summer blockbuster.
Honestly, one of the best
film
that we've seen in the last, I think, 5-6 years.
Talk about, I think, the model for ticking all the boxes,
100%. And then, just as a final part of the films and stuffies, if you look at our streamer skit platform, we did a total of 43 shows last year, 43 each, let's put it that way. Yeah. And of the shows that I was assigned to watch, 9 of them, actually for both of us, 9 of them were must subscribes.
Yeah.
A majority were mooch someone's password. And a fair number were don't waste your time.
Skip. That being said, I am particularly proud of our streamer skip record.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to try things that we never otherwise would have tried. And if you combine our lists, we've been able to identify 18 then must subscribes between us.
Yeah.
18 must subscribes, if you think about that. That is for a public service to our families, friends, and listeners, that if someone's like, hey, I don't know what to watch, I don't have time to waste, tell me what I should watch. We're basically, with 18, it's basically saying, hey, that's a series every 2 weeks. That's absolutely reasonable to expect people to watch 18 series, a year. Probably even a little bit aggressive, to be honest. I think between our two, lists where we've given them aggregate of 18 great things to watch, they're like, that's all I need.
Yeah.
18 in a year, more than adequate, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. We had some fantastic shows in there. We had shows that, and again, the beauty is that there were shows
The
that we would normally
Diplomat,
never watch.
Rabbit Hole, Silo, yeah.
Vortex. I mean,
Beef.
these are pretty excellent shows. So
I probably would not have watched The Night Agent. Yeah, Vortex on Netflix, we definitely would have. The Gold on Paramount Plus. Oh man. Bodies on Netflix, right? And our next one will be probably next week. We need to talk about Three Body Problem.
Yeah, we should actually touch upon that. Maybe we can include that as a part of our Streamer Skip episode for next week. But yeah, Three Body Problem. It was always on my watch list. And then, of course, Ethan said, stop what you're doing, watch it. Yeah. It's phenomenal. So I stopped what I did, and I ended up binging the whole thing in one night.
Yeah. You did watch all 8 in one night?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. It was a very late night, but totally worth it. It was so good.
We should call that like a must subscribe, a must binge, right?
A must binge.
Right? Because I think that's really the test of just a fantastic show. I could do that with Stranger Things. I could do that with The Umbrella Academy. Where something is just so fantastic that you're like, my body is telling me like, I've got to stop, but like, it's too good. I cannot, you know? And Three Body Problem, absolutely. I watched the first 4 by myself. I told my brother and sister that it's like fantastic. Then I saw them like the following weekend, and I watched again the first 4 with them just so that we could catch up. And then like the following week, then we watched the remaining 4. And it was so hard for me to like hold off. I'm like, I want to watch it with you. I want to experience the end with you.
Yeah.
So should we make some predictions now for 2024 streaming?
Yeah, let's do it. That's a great idea.
I'm going to say that I think, again, we're going to watch the most shows on Netflix and Amazon. I think Amazon is going to get marginally better in terms of content. I think Disney, Hulu being combined is really important. And I think we're still going to see a small number of good shows through Hulu. I think the lineup that we're going to see through Disney Plus outside of Star Wars is not very impressive.
I think Disney has kind of put themselves in a bit of a pigeonhole. Look, I don't want to call it an issue because we just saw X-Men 97, and I think that this is probably one of the best depictions of the X-Men that I've seen in all of the X-Men franchise that's been released in the last 25 years. It's so good.
If you were to give Disney some advice on how they could expand their catalog, what would you tell them to do? I feel like they're missing a little bit of an opportunity, because now what we've seen we talked about this on our last episode last week, that there's a lot of kind of like documentary series about how such and such product came about, right? We saw it with Jerry Seinfeld and Frosted. We saw it with Air. We saw it with a few other things. Disney could do the same thing with Star Wars. It could do the same thing with MCU. It could branch into something else without really branching into something else, kind of like the lowest hanging fruit, saying, hey, let's do a series about how Iron Man came to be. Let's do a series about Captain America. Let's do a series about, remember we watched that show, Our Favorite Toys from the 80s, where he talked about the Kenner and the Star Wars figurines. If Disney wants to create something without really a big amount of drama and internal approvals about what this new intellectual property would be, what their new original programming could be, they could just say, hey, let's make a bunch of, 4 or 5 episode series about one thing that we already own.
I actually would go one step further. I think that they should not look at the IPs that they own, because you're already saturating a market that I think they're going to just risk saturating even further. Because they've now taken control over Hulu, I would say let Disney focus on 3 core areas, which is Star Wars, MCU, and then their animated series, Pixar and all that sort of thing. So that's one arm. And then, similar to how they've acquired Fox, I would suggest they start doing programming like Hulu on Fox, whatever, under a new brand.
That's not a bad idea.
I think that Disney should double down on the acquisitions they've made with Fox, with Hulu. Hulu has built a great reputation over the last 2 or 3 years of doing shows that are very high quality, that are not what you would consider traditional quote unquote Disney content. I think you double down on that, get rid of the Hulu brand. With all due respect to Hulu as a brand, Disney is a much stronger brand.
Yeah.
Either call it Disney Hulu or something else altogether, or just absorb into the Disney brand. Get rid of this bifurcation that they've done on their platform, because right now through the Disney Plus platform, you can either just subscribe to Disney Plus or Disney Plus and ESPN or Disney Plus and Hulu or all three. It's a bit of a nightmare.
Sometimes too many choices are not good, right?
It's not good. And I love that you have choices. It's great. But at the same time, like one app, one platform, simplicity wins out in this. Because I don't want to have to pay $9.99 to Disney plus another $4.99 to Hulu plus another $3.99 for ESPN Plus. And I get that you can bundle it, and that's what they're effectively doing or giving you the option to. But man, just call it $15 a month and get all of them in the same.
Public service request for Max to take note of what's happening and try to make their HBO Discovery platform somehow better than that.
Oh, I mean, that is a technical disaster.
Yeah. I'm so unclear why their platform is so bad. This is not a small company that doesn't have any financial resources. It's not a company that, is new and hasn't been able to plan for this. Of all the things I'm able to access and watch, living in the Middle East, it's just baffling to me that I cannot even access their content. It's really, I don't know, bonkers, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a mess.
I'm looking forward to 2024. I think my cinema year is going to be a little bit light. I think my streaming year is going to be very heavy. I've got my first streamer skip coming up next week, which, as you know, I've been assigned Good Omens on Amazon Prime, and you have been assigned The Artful Dodger on Disney Plus, which sounds like a child. If this would be the 80s, it would be some kid who is somehow becomes a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm sure it's not about that.
Agreed. Anyway, so that is the Films and Stuffies of 2023.
Stuffies.
Congratulations to Paramount Plus / Disney Plus. You guys proved yourselves to be the platform of 2023 and therefore have earned the coveted Ethan and Pete recommendation for 2024.
Yeah, we need some statuettes made.
We'll send them to Bob Iger and to the Redstone family.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Paramount Plus, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see this summer how the releases jive with, the cinematic releases, right? Because again, we've talked about it. There's a finite amount of content that people can consume, right? I mean, it's literally 24 hours a day multiplied by the number of days in summer. That's a limit of content that you can really consume. And most people have a practical limitation of, I would say, like, working people have a practical limitation of 1 to 2 hours a day, which I think is being generous if you have a family.
Really is.
I think for people who are kind of like in university or university adjacent, they could probably consume an average of like 4 hours a day without being, totally unemployed and without any responsibilities, but probably not more than that. I mean, again, average. So I think there's limits to content, and with the the video games, with social media, with the cinematic releases, it'll be interesting to see what are the big winners in the streaming platforms this summer as well.
I was about to say I've got my money on cinema making its way back in a big way, but yeah, that's what I said for last year too.
Yeah.
And last year turned out to be a colossal, I don't want to say disappointment, but let's say a colossal shock.
I don't think we should say cinema is back or not back. I mean, cinema has just been displaced as a go-to function for where you get the best content. If you had changed the name cinema to Cinema Plus, and you'd say, hey, what do we like on Cinema Plus? What do we like on Apple TV Plus? What do we like on Netflix? If you'd look at all of cinema as a separate competitor, I think that's a more accurate way now to categorize it.
No, I agree.
All right. So, Pete, we've given our stuffies. We will do this again next year at the end of 2024, hopefully before the month of May. If our listeners want to agree, disagree, or there's always a third category, which you call give us your alternatives, where should they do it? How should they do it?
That is great. You can always tweet at us at Epindust Podcast. You can DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast. And otherwise, the easiest way to do that is to leave a comment below this video. As usual, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all the usual YouTube jazz. You know how it goes. All of that helps us out. And it also makes sure that we'll get to see what you're saying about where you think the movies are, where you think the streaming platforms are for the rest of this year.
Absolutely right. Pete, a pleasure as always. Thank you for your insight and your advice and for your rankings.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone else. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to what we hope is an excellent 2024 in terms of entertainment.
And we'll see you guys on the next episode of Films and Stuff Podcast.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.